Hi, folks. I am delighted to be with you today. As some of you know, and I've met some of you throughout the Trinno project, my name is David Minton. Most importantly, I am the colleague of Barry Guckin, who has played such a pivotal role in this particular project. But I'm also extremely proud to work as director for the Northern and Western Regional Assembly, and extremely proud to be with you today. It's really unfortunate that we can't have the conference physically, but thanks to our own digital innovation, at least we can have the conference remotely. So thank you to all the organisers for today. Trinno, I suppose, has been one of the most successful European projects. The project partners and the best practices that we really sparked our curiosity and challenged the levels of innovation that we apply to our own local entrepreneurial ecosystem. Can I thank all of the partners over the period for their friendship, for their cooperation, and most important, I think, the passion that they've demonstrated for SMEs, and particularly for supporting SMEs in rural and more traditional regions and sectors. But I think it's important that we remember and acknowledge all of the SMEs that share their stories and continue to inspire projects like Trinno through Interreg Europe and other European transnational cooperation programs. The European Union is extremely important to us. And I'd like to give you one example that I've just read recently. Back in 2013, Ireland was emerging from a recession with at one stage, it nearly hit 14% unemployment. The EU back then adopted its growth strategy towards 2020. By the end of 2019 and the outset of 2020, Ireland nearly had a full employment rate. The EU works for us, and that's why projects like the Trinno are extremely important, because we want to work for it. Trinno is another example of why we embrace the EU. In a rapidly changing world, in the context of Brexit, be it an agreed deal or a hard deal, identity is becoming more and more important, and the values of cooperation, knowledge exchange, and learning are it's increasingly important that we remember. We should all celebrate different identities. I'm, for example, from the west of Ireland. I'm a Galwegian. I'm Irish, but most importantly, I'm European. And it's really important on days like today that we all remember that we have different identities, but we share those core values of being European. And I suppose one other insight that I'd like to share, maybe before I tell you a little about our region, is Trinno was the catalyst project that sparked our bid back in 2018 to be designated as the European Entrepreneurial Region. Trinno, I suppose, gave us an insight into the extent and the levels, and gave us an opportunity to be able to map the extent of risk-taking and entrepreneurship within our traditional industries across the Northern Western region. And we wanted to be one of the first rural entrepreneurial regions across Europe, and really represent, I suppose, rural entrepreneurship. And we did that by successfully bidding and winning the title of European Entrepreneurial Region. I've only got a couple of minutes, and by the end of this little short presentation, I want you to know a little bit about our region, about our approach to supporting local entrepreneurial systems. And I'd like to maybe share one story, if I have time, about a small SME that I suppose be on a regular basis, because I drive by it every day on my way to work. But let me just tell you a little bit more about us. If you want to connect with us, you can on nwra.ie. I'm on Twitter at David Minton at any stage. But I suppose to start off, the Northern Western Regional Assembly is a regional tier of government in Ireland. The body is made up of 24 elected members, drawn from 8 counties, 1 city, 3 of which sit on our Committee of the Regions. Our identity, I suppose, and as a place and as a people, is probably more framed by the Atlantic Ocean than anything else. We are from the most peripheral part of Western Europe, and as I said to you, we celebrate our dual identity. We're proud to be both Irish and European. As a population, or as a region, we have a population of approximately 845,000 people, and we expect that has been rapidly growing in recent years, and we expect that to be over 1 million people by 2040. But albeit we're a small region, we're a region of, I suppose, what we like to think of as poets and artists. We're entrepreneurs and industrialists, fishermen and farmers, scholars and creative. And some people see Ireland as this really small nation, but actually the opposite is true. If you consider our marine territory, the real map of Ireland, as we like to call it, stretches over 200,000 square kilometres of our ocean shelf. If you were to reverse our marine territory, we'd actually be able to stretch from Ireland to France. So we might be a small country, but we have a global footprint. And when you look inside of our region, I suppose when we'd like to tell the story of our people, the image that's on the screen now and the map, I suppose, tells you a little bit about some of the things that we like to celebrate and promote. Wild Atlantic Way, which is a driving route from the northern tip in the north of Ireland to the southern tip in the south of Ireland. You can cycle, you can drive all across our Atlantic seaboard at over 2,500 kilometres in length. It's actually the longest defined coastal and tourism route in the world. But we also when you look across some of the other titles that we have the adventure capital of Europe in Sligo and Mayo. And then, small things, not really. When you look at National Geographic, came to our region, the title of the coolest place on the planet. Think about that for a second. National Geographic, international organization, came to Ireland and gave us the title of the coolest place on the planet. They're the kind of titles that keep us awake at night, thinking about how we make sure that we remain at the top of our game. So the coolest place on the planet. Our university in NUIG in Galway is regularly ranked as the top 1% globally. And our urban areas like Galway, Sligo, Athlone, Letterkenny are among some of the fastest growing urban areas in Europe. And these are the centres, I suppose, of innovation that led us to be awarded the European Entrepreneurial Region in 2018, and the connectivity that they have with our rural communities. But I suppose it's important that we recognise that we don't do it alone. We've over 140 global multinational brands located in the region. For example, you may know there's Coca-Cola. One of the company's largest manufacturing and distribution plants is located just outside Sligo in the northwest in a place called Ballina. And I suppose you may not have known, but Coca-Cola keeps its secret serum ingredient in one of 3 places in the world, and one of them is on this site, but don't tell anybody. And then Allergan, for example, is one of the world's largest medtech companies, located just in County Mayo. And it's the reason why the likes of Barry, myself, look so fresh and young all the time. 100% of the world's Botox is actually produced in this region, so that's what keeps us looking so fresh and so young. But look, we've many other brands and companies associated with the region in telling our story. When you look at the likes of, we'll say, the partnership that we have with the National Tourism Agency, and we promote, brands like Ireland's Hidden Heartlands in our Midlands, Ireland's Ancient East, and are connected with our great. But then you look at our third level sector, we've over 45,000 students working in business, artificial intelligence, robotics, IT, sports science, tourism, and also engaged in our innovation sectors in things like Wiser Lab, the Wind Energy Centre, looking at kind of our innovative economic propositions that are emerging across the region. But we like to think about the success of the region has been down to, I suppose, what we call the 3 T's: talent, technology, and most importantly, a track record for delivery. But as I said, the European Union and its programs and its accelerator investments in ERDF and projects like the Trinno has really been, I suppose, the catalyst for the transfer and given us an opportunity to be able to celebrate and promote ourselves at an international level. But I suppose the region, as any of you who've had the opportunity to be able to come here, either through the Trinno project or through your own tourism opportunities, the region has its challenges. We are one of the more peripheral regions in Europe. When you look at our motorway and our economic infrastructure provision in the region, you can see that most of our region is nearly 2 hours away from this nearest motorway network. When you look at other traditional infrastructure that underpins the competitiveness of a region, you look at the rail infrastructure, electrical grid network, gas infrastructure, we have real challenges here. So we have to innovate at a higher level than our compatriots in the other two regions of Ireland, in the west or in the east and in the south of the country. And I suppose over the last 4 years, Ireland has kind of transformed its planning and economic development system. And we now have a national planning framework, and we also have regional spatial economic strategies. So only this year, the Northern and Western Regional Assembly was able to adopt the first regional spatial economic strategy, and was able to focus on, I suppose, the key pillars around climate change and a low carbon transition, but very much focus on smart specialization within its economic strategy. And we were able to utilize the S3 policies at a European level and extract the learning from our experiences in Trinno to really adopt an aggressive smart specialization strategy that has a pillar focusing very much on SME digitalization and targeting the continuing access of programs like Interreg Europe and Horizon 2020. So those types of projects are going to help us accelerate I suppose, the divergence in regional inequality in Ireland. And that's something that I just wanted to flag with you. Ireland, the European Commission has wrote to the Irish member state warning that Ireland has one of the highest levels of regional inequality in Ireland. And it's extremely stark. And to give you one example of that, our per capita GDP in the Northern and Western region stands at approximately 28,000 euro. In contrast with the East and the South, their per capita GDP counts approximately 70,000. So it's nearly double what we were able to operate on the west and the border area of Ireland. And of course, Brexit is going to exacerbate that because we're more exposed than other parts of Ireland, and COVID-19 has actually identified as a region in transition. What we looked was a legacy of looked at key indicators at local national infrastructure, airport infrastructure, third level infrastructure. And what we were able to collate is a report called A Regional Transition, The Way Forward, identified out the 11 years that this region has received the lowest levels of investment across key indicators. And that's that their growth. In Trinno, we advocate for greater investment in our human capital and in our local entrepreneurial ecosystem, both through the third level sector, but also through the local enterprise support agencies and Trinno. So that's giving you a very quick overview of the region. We have just we like to focus on the opportunities and then I suppose a coherent approach for alignment, both the new EU growth deal or EU Green Deal and its new growth strategy. So recently, and Barry Guckin did a lot of work on this as well around our Let's Be More campaign, promoting the region to try and address the levels of inequality by being more urban, being more connected, more green and more specialized. And you can find out a little bit more about that campaign that was launched recently on our website. But just to finish, I want to tell you about one story of a company that inspires me on a daily basis and reflects some of the values of our SMEs who have, distinct challenges coming from the Northern and Western region. There's a small company called Voya, and its journey began back in 1912 when the first seaweed baths. So you can imagine extracting seaweed from our oceans and actually bathing in it, and they were able to experience the restorative basis of our seaweed off the west coast 100 years ago. But throughout that period, they reimagined through some research and development with our third level sector here in IT Sligo. We're able to reimagine the restorative ingredients that are in seaweed, and they've actually managed to have a seaweed bath tourism facility in a place called Strandhill in Sligo, but they've also established a manufacturing plant that exports to over 57 countries worldwide, and is one of the main products on Virgin Airways international airlines as well. So, a small company operating in the northwest of Ireland has, transcended all of the challenges that a peripheral and a rural region has done to be able to employ nearly 60 people in a small village, but also export internationally into, we'll say, it has a pharmaceutical range, but it also has a number of, I suppose, treatment and beauty products as well. So I'd encourage you to look at the product of Voya and next time you're here, we'd like to invite you to experience one of the seaweed baths, preferably after a cold, wet December day, walking along the sand dunes in Sligo. And hopefully post-pandemic, we'll be able to experience those again with you. Can I finish there? Can I thank everybody for their attention and just say Gurmagh Fuida Ord, Askelga. And can I also wish you and your families, I suppose, a safe couple of months, and hopefully we'll be back traveling in January 2021. So thank you very much.